London Real, sponsored by Bulletproof Coffee.
It's a level. It's definitely a level. It's a level of consciousness. So at the bottom level, you're teaching about fundamental physical self-defense. And there's not a massive amount to that. At the top end, it's self-defense against self, where you are at a point, and I can only talk from my own life, where you're at a point where you recognize that you're the one that creates the violence because of your mindset. If you're in a lower frequency, you create violence from that place. So when I had this kind of insecure person at the front of my consciousness, I was so afraid of the world that I literally, with my strong imagination, created nightclubs, pubs, fights at christenings, fights at weddings. I couldn't leave the house without being in a fight. I was literally in hundreds of fights. And I know people will think that's an exaggeration, but I mean, I was working in a city where I was one of the least experienced. I was working with guys that were in thousands of fights. 4 of my friends were murdered, 2 of them were assassinated. It was a hugely violent time. So, but I'm aware that I created that. I had weapons in every room of my house. My body was, I'm full of tattoos. I've got the body armor. I took away the prettiness. Don't want to be touched, don't want to be abused. Built up this massive armor and these skills, and I went out into the world and I created violence. I created it. I was a millionaire with, as far as violence is concerned. The exciting turning point for me was when I realized that it was me that was creating it. Because I said to my wife, everywhere I go, there's violence. It's such a violent world. And she said, you know, what you need to look at is the fact that it's everywhere you go.
There was a UFC fighter called War Machine who had to go to prison for a year, and he came out recently and he said the same thing. He said, I used to go out with my friends and violence would find me. I was like, what's happening? But he's like, ultimately, it came to me because he's like, I think I kind of brought it on myself, this whole mindset. He was always worried about getting into a fight and getting into problems, and then, you know.
But of course, you end up in a violent environment. And then because I was kind of at the top end of that, and then you suddenly start to realise that there's always someone that's prepared to come, team-handed. Someone's prepared to bring weapons. And if you bring a knife, they'll bring a gun. You bring a gun, they'll bring a team with a gun. You know, there's always somebody prepared to take it a step further. And you start realising that you may feel as though you're strong, but you're strong in a very low frequency. And you realise how unintelligent that is. So violence is part of the hierarchy. We are an evolving species, and that is part of the evolvement. And if you look around the world, there are lots of people at lots of different stages. But having been in that stage of, you know, the violent kind of frequency, I realised that even well-intentioned violence always rebounded on itself because it is a reciprocal universe. What we give out returns, you know, and what we give out prolifically returns prolifically. When I realised this, I got rid of every weapon in my house. I got rid of all the weapons. I got rid of all the violent books. And this happened over a period of time. I stopped teaching violence. I stopped talking violence. I stopped writing violence. I realised that I was creating, you know, when people say this, when you want to create something, you have to fully immerse yourself. I created a violent world because I fully immersed myself in the belief that I needed violence. I literally created monsters. So I just dissolved that. And then I started to fill my house with, positive thinking books and the Bibles, and I started to go inside and dissolve all these parts of me that believed that was true. I went to the very heart of the dragon, because the dragon in me was very big, but when I went to the heart of it, it was just a very small core belief that was injected in me when I was 12 that said the world is dangerous, nobody can be trusted, build yourself an armory, become violent.
Was it